You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
This is Randy. In the future, we're only going to start episodes when we're angry. Yes, the Grawlix will be fueled by hate.
This is Jesse. In the future, when Warner Brothers lines up a DC Comics movie with a star-studded ensemble cast, they will nail down their CGI budget first, and then they will hire their names. Which is why coming soon, Green Lantern is Mark Paul Gosselaar.
My name is Melanie, and in the future, there will be a new type of job. Listeners. People will hire people to come and sit and just listen to them talk and ramble and whatever, before the show starts.
Welcome to the Grawlix Podcast, episode number 68, I believe. It's always got to be a question.
68? Is it really?
No.
I thought it was I thought it was in the
58.
I thought it was in the 50s. I think 58. I think
I'm just ready.
The number you're searching for is 58.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
You are so ready for 68.
I was just doing my time travel bit. 58.
Yes.
And this episode, we're gonna talk about some recent entertainment. We're gonna talk about some Stranger Things because we got to. And we're gonna talk about Justice League, which came out just a couple of weeks ago. We're actually a little closer to the pulse. No, by the time this goes up, nobody's talking Justice League.
No.
But that's okay. We want to talk Justice League. And actually, Melanie watched. Well, I watched it last night too, but I've seen it before. Melanie watched Wonder Woman last night, so we're all caught up on the DC cinematic universe.
Hey.
Oh, good. So we can put it on like a Matrix. We can get really, really nerdy and say which one's better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm down. I kind of have thoughts on this.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure you do, because who doesn't? That's what nerds do. We put things on a Matrix or a Venn diagram or whatever.
Well, actually... Yeah.
Technically, push my glasses up.
And then next episode, we're going to talk Constantine, but that's not till weeks away, so why am I even mentioning it? I don't know. Let's move on.
Hey, you're just prepping them.
Prepping.
Get ready. Don't be friends.
Lube them up.
Dope them up?
Lube
them up, okay.
Oh, even better.
Yep.
Feel like I've been rebirthed.
Ooh, man. Listener, if you are not a patron of ours, if you're not a supporter on Patreon of our show, you missed a killer, insane pre-show.
I would call it a rant.
It went everywhere and nowhere good.
Like, we wasted all of the time on Google Hangouts that we could before it crashed on us, and yeah.
Yeah, we're recording this via Skype, which is like I was telling Jesse before recording. It's like sacrilege for Grawlix.
Yep.
We always record on Hangouts.
I feel a little dirty. I feel like I need a loofah sponge. Exfoliate.
Yep. Yeah.
Gotta wash the lube.
So you scrape the Skype off.
Yeah, big time.
In-house news.
Okay, so December, what is it, 14th or 15th?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a big thing that could really affect us.
Yeah, for sure. If you're one of those people who are like, oh, I know what this is, not this again, I'm tired of seeing the posts about it. Well, guess what? Get used to it. Suck it up, Buttercup. Because it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Especially for us, especially if you like us. If you don't like us, maybe it's like probably good news, but if you like us, then this is kind of important.
Even if you don't like us, there's probably something somewhere that you like.
Oh, sure,
that
good
will
point.
be affected by it.
Mm-hmm. So what we're talking about is the net neutrality thing, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
I asked like I'm unsure. Like we're pretty far into the conversation to be unsure about what we're talking about.
It's like, there's a lot of cues here, but yeah.
So we're talking about Star Wars, right? Oh. So
that's 2 days away or less. A day away.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Like we really botched this. We should have been talking about Star Wars the whole time. We're not gonna.
No, but that would have been that. That's some good SEO. We tie into the cultural pulse.
So our did you say the cultural pulse? I don't know. I don't even know what that is.
Me either.
All right,
but obviously we're
tied
not
into
on it.
it.
So.
We tied into it because we're not good at SEO.
What's that?
We're good at misspelling things.
Search engine optimization.
Oh.
Yeah.
The net neutrality, here's my thing, and it's kind of using podcasts. It's not just podcasts. This extends to like all content, but like keep in mind,
fair enough.
Coming at it from the content creator standpoint.
Digital creator.
So think about it like this way. Now, if they repeal the net neutrality rules as it stands now, basically then it's saying internet service providers and cable companies, whoever provides your internet, can then if they choose, and even though some of them say, oh no, we wouldn't do that. Listen, all companies are made to maximize their profits regardless what. Like, so if they have the option, even if they say they're not going to do it now, eventually they're going to do it. In fact, they owe it to their shareholders to do it. So what they say now is bunk. Anyhow, they can slow down access to certain websites or certain services. They can completely cut off access to certain websites or certain services. And
like VoIP.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what we use to record.
And the issue is, well, there's lots of issues with that. But the immediate thing is, like, the go-to example is cable packages. Because guess what? Most of your service providers are also your cable providers. Don't you just love how they slice up the cable channels and put these packages together where it's like, well, this package is pretty good, but doesn't quite have everything, so I have to buy this other package, which is like another $40 or $20 or whatever. Like, that's what they're going to do with the internet. You'll have to pay a premium for social networks or a premium for Netflix access. And the idea of like, well, maybe it'll be cheaper because I only use certain websites. Think about cable. You're not like, you're paying the base rate to have the service. Everything else is heaped on top of that. It's not a matter of like, it's going to be cheaper because I don't use this service. I'm getting sidetracked. My point is, say you've got podcasts. You've got podcasts you enjoy listening to. You'll have to have the podcast package. And they can 100% regulate that because most podcasts, even if you have tricky ways around like, well, I don't use iTunes or I don't use that. Most podcasts are hosted in like maybe on like a handful of different services. All they have to do is say, oh, this file is coming from Blueberry or Libsyn or SoundCloud. Cut it off unless they pay for the podcast package. Say there's a podcast which your particular internet service provider decides, you know what, this show badmouths our company, or we don't like the topics they discuss. They can straight up censor that show. They can cut access to that show.
And I'm looking at you, alt-right, because if you don't like things that CNN likes to talk about, your stuff is getting blacklisted by certain telecoms. So it does not matter which side of the fence you're on.
I guess I'm approaching this wrong. As it is with podcasts and with anything you put out on the internet, you essentially have freedom of speech. You could pretty much put out anything you want, and everybody starts with the same level playing field. But this way, you're handing it over to these companies who can easily be bought, sold, or whatever. They have their own vested interests in certain things.
And our lobbies.
Yeah, and they can control then the flow of that speech that goes out. Maybe they decide, you know what, not all podcasters start on a level playing field. Unless you pay us for this package or you pay this certain company, we're going to slow your show down so nobody can really access it very well. In which case you'll lose all your listeners, and whatever show they prefer or whatever show was willing to, like, whatever podcast network was willing to dish out a bunch of money for, those are the shows you'll be able to get quickly. Guess what people are going to listen to? They're not going to listen to the show that buffers every 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But that extends also to YouTube, which is a mess right now anyway, and Netflix, services you already pay for.
Right. So you're paying on top. So you're going to pay for the ability to stream that well. Plus, you're going to pay for the service itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because they're still going to make their money, or they're going to charge those people more, and you're going to have to pay that money in a hidden fee, where they rake, they hike their rates, and so they rake that money in some other way.
Yeah, that's another thing. And if you think like, well, it'll be cheaper because I only watch Netflix, I don't need all the other stuff. If Netflix then has to pay out a bunch of money to different service providers to like stop them from throttling which has happened. This has already happened. To stop them.
Well, you look at some content specific to our podcast, like The Walking Dead, and how they have had to go toe to toe with like, oh, what's the service? It's one of the Dish services, Dish One, right, or something like that. Like they have been blocked from that service, and you have had to petition before that we want AMC, because if we don't have AMC, then we don't have The Walking Dead. Back in their heyday, right?
That's
like,
right.
That was a big issue, like that's what I'm talking about right here.
No, you're absolutely right, because and that type of thing comes up with Dish, and I'm sure it happens with cable companies too, because the station doesn't want to pay out, or I don't know, maybe it's the cable company doesn't want to pay out whatever licensing they have to pay for the channel. I mean, that same type of thing could then apply to websites now. Like, you'd have to petition your internet service provider for some site that you use all the time.
Basically, if you're a mainstream fan, then you're going to be fine. But if you like things that aren't multimillionaires, then you are going to pay more.
But like, so, if you like, I don't know, 98% of the other content online,
Yeah.
Right.
You're kind of going to get boned. You're going to pay out more. Those creators aren't going to be able to afford to get their stuff seen or heard.
So if you're a Superman fan, you're going to be fine. But if you like Ted Kord as the Blue Beetle, get used to not seeing the Blue Beetle, dude, or Dudette.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I know there's so much more elegant ways to put these points, but
I think we got it mostly.
I think Melanie's ready to move on.
We've ranted. We've dominated both the pre-show and the show now.
But without net neutrality, it's handed over to the internet service provider companies. As a company, their number one responsibility, not to the customer, but is to their shareholders to make it the most amount of money possible. So then we are basically handing the internet over to say, here, you have total control over it, knowing that their entire thing is to make money. So it's going to become YouTube, only worse. So
or Constantine NBC style.
Oh, you like dark, gritty Constantine? Here you go.
Here's NBC network friendly Constantine.
He can't smoke,
except off screen.
Yep.
He might flick a cigarette away.
Wow, that's gonna be fun to edit together.
That's the podedit.com, ladies and gentlemen.
Did that last segment have any sense of like cohesiveness or comprehensibility? Is that a word? Well, if it did, you should go to podedit.com if you're a podcaster and need your podcast edited in some smooth fashion like that, because wow, it was a mess.
It was a mess. Hey, and if you like messes, you should go to patreon.com and check out the Grawlix Podcast Patreon, because it's a mess.
Yeah, you'll get stuff, and it's a mess.
And we might be able to afford to still podcast in the new world order.
That reminds me, I have not been uploading our podcast.
Oh, you have? Well, I mean, you did videos. You did my most recent Igniferous.
Yeah, I've been trying to. I've fallen a little behind on the Patreon stuff, but I have not been loading our full episodes to YouTube lately. Part of it is because I was busy, and also YouTube made me mad because they kept demonetizing our videos. I'm like, it's a clean language podcast.
We talked about this a little bit on the pre-show, but I was watching a keynote speaker on basically taboo language, whatnot, and I came up with some ideas for like marketing the podcast. But I mean, like, that's neither here nor there. So I mean, like, but just look for. I'm going to be posting some things, so it'll be fun.
Interesting.
I got some ideas watching this thing. So
if you see some odd promotion, this explains why.
Well, I just got to thinking about how we, rather than Grawlixing things, rather than making more work for podedit.com, rather than do that, we come up with like creative ways to say bad words. Like
gits?
That guy was a real bad word, or this guy was a jerkhammer, or, you know, like ridiculous.
Ooh,
like,
jerkhammer. I like it, but it also still kind of sounds dirty.
Yeah, you know, like we just come up with really creative ways, you know, creative ways to not say the word that we actually want to say. And
yeah, like gits. I like gits.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
It sounds so offensive.
We know about gits.
We know about gits. Well, I guess we don't know gits, but
I don't know gits.
We don't know gits at all. But so I just got to thinking about that, and I thought, that's interesting.
That'd be fun.
We
but
basically
we'd have to have,
Grawlixed ourselves.
We'd have to have like a legend to tell us what's what, because I won't remember.
Yes, that would be even better. like a key.
Yeah.
So Patreon members, we may be like creating a key so that you can see how we're actually swearing without actually swearing.
Actually, since gits, I've been thinking about that. Like we need like a glossary or something that explains some of the random things we say, like cat dancing or bat dancing or spider buggy. Like why is that a thing?
But maybe it's a thing just because you're weird. That's why.
No.
Some of them are.
Those?
Yeah, some of them are because we're weird.
Some of them are because we're weird.
A lot of them are.
But gits is one that translates pretty well.
What else?
Okay, so I don't know, but this is, you know, like Brandon would say that we are the flagship show. So I feel like we use our in-house news to kind of welcome people. And I don't know if we've welcomed people, in particular, the Kickout.
Oh, yeah.
And it's timely because the Kickout and one of our most recent editions, the Superior Comic Show, have been doing this awesome crossover thing.
Oh, cool.
So the Kickout most recently had Peter on from the Superior Comic Show, and the Superior Comic Show most recently had somebody from the Kickout on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Some Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network crossover action.
Yeah, so check out the Kickout episode number 76 and Superior Shenanigans number 25 on the Superior Comic Show, because there is some serious crossover action, like a comic book.
And some serious, fantastic Irish accents.
Yeah, there is a lot of Irish accent going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like Irish accents, they're fun.
Yeah.
They make me want to do stuff.
Jig.
Do a jig?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And other racist things.
Oh my God! So close! He kicked out!
Tune in to The Kickouts, your weekly pro wrestling guide, right here on the Electric Media Collective Podcast Network. Covering all the latest news, results, previews, rumors, and more from the world of professional wrestling, as well as covering the wrestling scene right here in Ireland.
What are we doing today? It feels like it's been like 2 hours since we started, but it really hasn't.
No.
But it really has.
Oh, it does feel... It feels like this episode's going long. Dude, I think we're only like 15 minutes into it.
Oh.
But that means... I'm sorry, Melanie.
Melanie has pain in her voice.
But that means it's time to get to our feature topic, right?
Yeah, please.
Feature topic?
Good
Feature
idea.
topic, yes.
Okay, well, we have two, so...
Do we?
This episode won't go long, I swear. So do you guys want to start with a little TV talk or the movie talk?
Oh.
TV and then work our way up to movie, because that's how you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about Stranger Things too. We got to stop doing that. We got to stop not saying what we're talking about.
What are we talking about? We're just going to talk about what we're not talking about.
The thing that you always yell at me for. Oh,
Yeah, Melanie's infected us.
I'm sorry.
It's because Melanie's not talking about the thing we're about to talk about, so we got to not talk about it.
Stranger Things 2. Let's talk about it.
So Stranger Things 2. I love that they call it Stranger Things 2. Stranger Things Season 2, obviously. But so we all watched it, as I'm sure you have, listener. And just, I don't know how much we're probably going to get into spoilers. It's been out for a little while, so be warned.
We can't not. I mean, like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
So Stranger Things Season 1, we all enjoyed, yeah?
Yeah.
Everyone did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Stranger Things Season 2. I wasn't really nervous I wasn't really worried, but I was slightly nervous. I was like, man, Season 1 was so like entertaining. It was so good. Like it's gonna be hard to follow it up. Like it could go so badly so easily. I loved it. I love season 2. I thought it was great. Just put it right on Front Street.
Yeah,
I loved it more as well.
Shocked.
That was great.
I was mouth agape shocked.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm in the same place that I was at the end of season 1, where I'm like, how are they going to follow this up? Because that's how I was at the end of season 1. Like, what are they going to do? What can they do now that is going to be as good as season 1?
Mm-hmm.
And
that's exactly right.
And that's exactly what you want. You know, it's like more of the same. Yes, please.
Yeah, I like also that it's a continuation. It's better, and it still kind of leaves you like openings for following seasons.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I suppose. They did have the ominous thing at the end too.
It didn't feel quite as ominous, but it still felt ominous.
This one left an opening, but it didn't seem like it put any setup. The end of season 1 like put a setup with Will.
Yeah, which tied directly into the season.
So I have no clue where they would go for season 3, like at all. Less of a clue, I guess, than I had for where they'd go for season 2.
I kind of feel like it's a supervillain ending kind of thing, where it's like, okay, they thwarted Doctor Doom, but they never killed Doctor Doom exactly.
You may have won the battle, but the war,
the war is far from over, kind of thing. Because whatever that smoke demon giant mind flayer thing that they refer to.
I really liked how they handled that too, because I was a little worried about, not worried, but one thing that I think I could have envisioned going wrong is, so they've got this, you've seen it in all the promotional artwork in the trailers and stuff leading up, like this big, huge creature thing in the sky, or well, it towers up into the sky. I liked how much of a non-central point he was. It was more of like a big ominous force is kind of what it felt more like.
Yeah, well it was, yeah. Hive mind stuff. It was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I like Slither.
Or Alien versus Aliens. Alien was like, okay, there's this, and now we're just going to multiply the threat.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned it, because I love that they handled it like a movie sequel would. And I'd heard that after season 1, the two writers, the Duffer brothers or whatever, made some like various podcast appearances on different shows. And I heard them talk about how they pitched season 2 to Netflix. They're like, well, you know how a lot of times movies, like, they do really well and then they'll do a sequel and the sequel's kind of crappy, and they're like, well, we want to do that, but make it good. And they're like, it's like not a great pitch, right? But if you look at it, they totally made it like they would make a movie sequel, at least back in the day, where they mirror some of the same popular things from the first season. Like, instead of the Christmas lights, and I like the Christmas lights better, but instead of the Christmas lights in, what's their last name? Will Byer? Yeah, the Byer house. They had the tunnel map that kind of accomplished the same type of feel, you know. And then you're right with the Alien and Aliens. I don't know. I like how this season explored different team ups. Also, Dustin got a lot of focus, which was interesting. Like, it felt like the first season we got a lot of focus on, what's his name?
Mike.
And it seemed like a lot of that focus this season moved to Dustin.
Well, and a little bit the other guy, but...
The other guy?
Oh, Lucas,
thank you.
Yeah, on Lucas.
Yeah, those two got more. And the new added character.
Mad Max. Also, like, again, first season I was surprised at, like, man, Steve's not a terrible guy. Like, I'm surprised. Like, he was totally set up to be kind of like the bully villain, you know, teen villain guy.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And then this season, they take it even further where you're like, Steve's great. He's like the best guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. And the team up of him and Dustin works so well. Like, I didn't see that coming. And then it's like, oh, man. Well, they're actually in and they're exploring it. And it's fun. In
the very first episode of Beyond Stranger Things, which is a thing you can watch on Netflix along with Stranger Things, they say in that first episode that, like, they were surprised because Steve was supposed to be that quintessential 80s bad guy that nobody, you know, like, there's nothing redeemable. And then as things went along, you totally start to like the guy. And so that's why they introduced, what's his name? Mad Max's brother.
Yeah.
Like they needed a new quintessential bad guy because Steve was not it.
That's interesting that like they had meant for Steve to be that character because that's how he starts. And I thought that was I assumed it was kind of intentional that like first season, it's like they're subverting that expectation.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But even if it was with a, I don't know, just like a sleazier person play the character, you still might not.
The Red Power Ranger,
him.
BT Dubs. That's the Red Power Ranger from the new movie.
Oh, really?
He's the Red Power Ranger. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I hadn't seen the new movie.
Yeah. So he went from hero to total skis.
Speaking of that character, dude, yeah, that guy, like,
I don't like the weird, like, homophobic vibe I get from him.
Well, they really hit that with his dad.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting because that's the only time in the whole series you get any kind of slur, really. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, I mean, with his character, they definitely hint at some racism, but I was kind of glad it never really pushed that hard.
Yeah.
But then when his dad dropped the F-bomb on him, I was like, whoa, like...
The other F-bomb.
The less acceptable F-bomb.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I just find it interesting because it feels like there's some kind of angle there. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they're just leaving it as is, like...
Well, and also, part of it might be it's in an 80s movie.
Oh, and they were they dropped that all the time in the 80s shows.
Yeah.
Even...
Bill and Ted.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, wow. I was going to say Monster Squad, but I think Bill and Ted's more recent even.
Well, yeah. I mean,
and
I just watched it, so...
They used it when they would censor other things, so maybe it's just trying to be faithful to the 80s. Or poke fun at the 80s for being that way.
Yeah. They've got to have plans for that character, right?
There's got to be, right? Especially since, I mean, like, Max isn't going away, so he's not.
They did a good job because I was kind of rooting for Max to put that bat into his face, and that's actually pretty extreme. I can't see how that would have played out well.
Yeah.
Negan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I am Max, and so are you.
This reminds me of something else maybe we can mention here in a little bit, but what did you guys think of the new characters? We got Max. We got, was his name Bob? He seems like a Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob.
We already talked about Max's brother.
Sean Astin.
Bob is my one criticism.
Yeah?
Really?
How so?
Because he was I thought it was obvious that he was going to go down. I'm like, they threw him in and made him too likable and, you know.
He was HR.
The sap.
He was HR? Yeah.
He was HR,
nice HR
from
HR
Flash.
From Flash last season.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
we were meant
you
to
get
like
likable Wells.
Yeah.
Yeah. Melanie spoiled that one for me.
I'm sorry.
She had somebody else spoil it.
I did?
Yeah, you totally told me before it happened.
Well, I guessed that it was going to be him.
You said somebody said.
I said somebody said that someone's going to die, but I didn't know who. And then I said, but I think it's going to be that guy.
I think
that's
I
couldn't unsee it.
I was like, he's the big name, you know. So it's like, oh yeah, we won't get him for season 3.
They said a main character died, and I'm like, he wasn't even really a main character.
That's like, never mind. I was about to
spoil something else.
Side tangent. Well, I was going to say, that's like back in the day when they were going to kill a main character on Beverly Hills 90210, and it turned out to be some side character cousin that showed up
somebody that showed up for just that episode.
It's like, that's false advertising.
Right.
Crappy show that I didn't really ever watch, but I remember the advertising.
By the way, I don't like the way that he, took it or whatever, because they didn't stand there lovingly staring at each other for 5 freaking minutes, then they wouldn't have had a problem, I don't think.
I don't think the writers, maybe leading up to that episode, were like, they're not going to guess. But I don't think they were trying to hide it at any point in time, because once it was like, he was like, well, I'll go do this thing.
Yeah.
Like, even if I hadn't had that tip off of like, somebody's going to die and you pointed to him, like, you're like, oh, he's done. From the dialogue, the way the scenes play out, you're like, he's done.
And who he is.
They strung it out longer than I thought they were going to.
Like I said, he's the biggest name. It's like, okay, he's gone. They can't afford to pay for him for a couple seasons.
Somewhere Winona's like, what?
Yeah.
Right.
Were you a hobbit? I don't think so.
No. Sorry.
She'll look at you with crazy eyes. Winona face.
Look everywhere like she sees something else. Have you seen that video? Like, they did a video of their was it Golden Globe speech or whatever, and she's just looking everywhere.
Oh yeah.
That's
like she sees something
crazy.
that no one else does, and somebody else animated over top of it, so you can see what she sees.
what's that YouTube channel? Was it Honest Trailers? They did a Stranger Things video.
Oh no!
And
yes, I did see that.
And starring whatever, and starring Winona Face. Then it showed all her like looks in the show, but it also then cut to the Golden Globes thing.
Yes.
Funny. And Max, what do you guys think of Max?
Max was fine.
She
was a little
very appropriate for like a.
Oh, I was gonna say she seemed superficial, but I mean like you were kind of saying, she did seem appropriate to the time. Like she played into a perfect stereotype kind of thing. But she does need some development, like she does feel.
Hey, give her time.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. And like she totally will earn her spot, but at this point, like you can totally see where the other characters are coming from. Like, who are you? If you aren't totally enthralled with her, you're like, why do we need you?
Because there has to be more than one girl.
I agree, because you got to pass the Bechdel test. So
that's what I was about to. Me and Melanie were talking about this the other day, and then there was another YouTube video with the actors that play Steve and Dustin, and the Bechdel test came up.
Oh, did it?
Does it pass the Bechdel test? Does it? Because
man, I hope so.
Without the Bechdel test, you get it.
Well, there's more.
And then you're part of the losers club.
Right, exactly. There's obviously more than one female character. Know what? Nope, it does. I just thought about it. But it does because of the episode people are so down on. Otherwise, I can't think.
Right, because but are they talking about Papa?
They do?
Or they just talk...
they do a lot.
They do a lot, but I think you're right. I think they do talk about, like, just powers for a moment.
Yeah.
Like she's training her. I love that episode. Forget what people say.
You love it.
I think that's a great episode because it is a pastiche. It's a total homage to other things from the 80s. So, yeah, I like it. It's the Warriors, man. It's come out and play.
Yeah. It's obviously that's a somewhat spoiler that I couldn't get around. Is just that episode 7.
Yeah,
everybody hates.
We have to talk about episode 7 because we'd be a bad podcast if we didn't.
So I agree. It does feel kind of out of place. It's definitely a shift.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And with the exception of the big guy in the group, I don't really like any of those characters. I don't like any of them. But I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay.
I like it because it's archetypal and it is a pastiche. I mean, like, I guess the reason that people don't like it, and I would agree with this, is that it's one episode only. I think if we had a little more time to develop those characters, we'd care a little bit more.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Like the only one
I didn't mind that it was one episode.
The only one we care about is 11, and maybe 8, because she has a connection to 11. But the rest of them, it's like, okay, you're the punk, and you're the heavy, and you're, the other female. You're the Barb.
But I did appreciate that it did then give the show an opportunity to grab from other 80s tropes and stuff. Like you got the punks and you're in, where was it? Was it Detroit? If it wasn't Detroit, it should be Detroit, but you're in the city. So it is jarring because you're kind of used to the rural kind of adventure horror thing. And then you go to the city with these punks running from cops and stuff. So it's a little weird, but
crumbling buildings and spray paint and neon signs.
Yeah.
True.
But I enjoyed that you basically, there's here's another D&D party.
Oh yeah.
Because they're all totally just another set of characters in a D&D game or another party.
Or maybe it's GURPS.
GURPS?
Which is another D&D role-playing system from that era.
Oh. Okay.
Which you could have Cyberpunk. It was more the Cyberpunk system.
Oh. Well, there you go.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit some RPG stuff. You hit some deep stuff. I don't know that.
That was next level.
Somebody listening is cheering, though.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Cheering that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You're like, GURPS, we know what that is. We played that.
We know gits about GURPS.
I was a cyberpunk ninja with a dinosaur I could ride. That was the thing with GURPS. GURPS was totally universal. You could plug anything into GURPS.
Oh yeah.
You just had different source books and source books that had a different setting. So yeah, like Robotech or ninjas or whatever.
I appreciated that episode 7. We get a training montage.
Yes.
I was like, wow,
that's totally
a training
80s.
montage
For sure.
You just get angry and then fans.
You know, like I argue, like the people that don't like that episode, I argue that 11 wouldn't be where she needed to be for the final episodes if you didn't have episode 7. Like, you need it. No matter what you think about it, you need it.
So what do you guys think about 11's arc?
I kind of didn't like the super jealousy-ness she gets, but that's, I guess, maybe to be expected of somebody that's never had to share.
Right. The Max thing, yeah. Level 1 Zoomer.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where it's frustrating as a viewer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, don't be that way. But, you know, she is a kid. And not only is she a kid, she's like a very sheltered kid. So
yeah,
she would be, I would think, even somewhat less equipped to know how to handle jealousy in situations like that than other kids.
I think that's another part, I don't know that it's true, but of going with the with episode 7 or whatever, was getting to go out and meet other people and learn how to handle your emotions maybe a little better, control herself, stop being a little bad word.
Oh man,
that's some pre-show talk right there. She's a bad word.
Stop being a bad word.
Yeah. Pre-show people, go ahead and check your matrix and see what bad word that actually means.
Mm-hmm.
Bad word. That's what I've noticed. Melanie uses bad word a lot, actually, because
I'm trying not to say the bad word
when you censor yourself. Yeah. So I enjoyed her telekinetic temper tantrum. I was like, that would be horrifying.
Yeah.
To have to deal with a telekinetic, super powerful child.
Teenage girl. That's the word.
Oh, teenage girl that's throwing a temper tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome.
I feel like you'd be extra stubborn too. Like, no, you don't just get to throw a desk at me.
So that's another thing. So in addition to the Steve Dustin like team up relationship we got, like suddenly we have an 11. What's his name?
Hopper.
Sheriff.
Hopper. 11 Hopper father-daughter relationship,
right.
Which I don't think that wasn't ever like even hinted at in first season. That's just kind of out of nowhere, right?
Yeah. No, that just happened to happen. Made sense.
And I like that a lot.
Yeah, it made sense after the fact.
Yeah.
And you know how many people would then have the stones to like fight against her dirt while she's having her temper tantrum, like no TV.
Yeah,
do not. Yeah, no, like you said, do
no
not
waffles.
throw a desk at me.
You don't get waffles.
You just exploded the windows with your mind. Clean it up.
Not only that, but wasn't he there? Didn't you see her explode some guys' heads before?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's there.
That right there would terrify me.
In a way, like he needs to. Like she needs somebody. He's a little overboard with things, obviously, because he does kind of keep her. I mean, she could leave at any time, but he tries to keep her there.
His fear is out of control.
Yeah, exactly. But she definitely needs somebody who's not going to be afraid when she starts throwing furniture around with her mind to kind of still try to keep her in line, or else she'll run off, hang out with some punks, and actually
she'll be like, "You're not my real dad," and leave.
Yeah.
See somebody else that was like in a industrial strange lab with crazy powers and make her dress weird.
Ultimately, with 11, I'm glad they did something along the lines of the episode 7 to set up like a progression of her powers that kind of sets up the awesomeness at the end. So even though we're getting her basically going Super Saiyan and eliminating the big bad threat like we did at the end of season 1, it doesn't feel just straight up redundant or like an easy out like it could have if we didn't have at least, a progression of her character and powers.
It also sets up like an expansion of that universe. Like she's not the only one. Like,
oh yeah,
like
that's
there
was
that's
a good point.
There was powers and abilities before her. They just weren't quite hers.
Yeah, and I did like that too because they didn't go crazy. They're not like, well, this is X-Men now,
Right.
We only got like one other person's powers, but it's different. It's a different power set, and yeah, it doesn't hint. It like opens a crack in the door, just a peek of like, there's who knows what else is out there. Like this chick can make people see things. There's this other stuff out there without going overboard. and making every character in the punks group a mutant or something, you know?
Right.
The stuff with her mom was weird. Was that this time or last time?
That was this time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Where she's on a loop, like she has
horrible.
She has a mental loop, and we just hear the same phrases over and over, but we don't know what they mean until she kind of cracks the code.
That is pretty terrible. They set it up that way too. They're like, well, they even set it up with like, it was a dream, stuck in a dream or whatever. I hope it's a good one. Nope. Of course it's not.
Nope. Dustin, you should not have Dart in your room like E.T. and lie to all your friends. Like, come on. Did anybody think that was going to end well? I mean, like it kind of.
That's another thing. Like
it kind of did. It kind of did. But like, well.
Yeah.
That's true. It's interesting they did the E.T. thing again, kind of. First season E.T. was 11.
Yeah. So first season E.T. was 11. They're hiding her. And then Dustin decides he's going to hide Dart in his room in an aquarium, and everything's going to be fine.
Oh, I did want to say, I especially towards the end of the season, like, man, there's episodes, like the episode where, well, what's his name gets it, but where they're in the building and they have to escape. I'm like, this could just be a movie. Like this episode, this whole thing, this could be a whole movie right here. And it was handled like a movie might be handled and done really well. And I appreciated that a lot. I think this season had some moments that felt more intense, but also it seems like the story clicked by at a way faster pace. Of course, they don't have to do so much like character introductions and stuff like that, but season 2 felt like, there wasn't a lot of downtime. And I want to say season 1, especially the first half, like it's not slow, but Will's like missing the whole time. And it feels like that's the nature of the arc of the season, but it feels like that just drags on. And it does. It drags on the whole season. That's like the premise of the season. Like, where'd Will go, kind of.
How long was he supposed to have been gone?
I don't recall. A few days, at least.
They brought up something interesting in this, in the Beyond the Stranger Things thing, where they did not really talk about Dungeons and Dragons. They never played Dungeons and Dragons. They're a little bit older, and now apparently they go to the arcade instead. Like, they don't hang out in Will's basement anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Which was an interesting
but
thing.
They play similar type characters.
Yeah, they still save the princess or whatever in Dragon's Lair.
Yeah.
But.
And, they still use it as reference for what they're fighting against.
Right. The Mind Flayer.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was great.
I thought it was great as well.
Yep.
Is it coming back for another season?
As far as I know,
I hope it is. Yeah. But if it didn't, I don't want to say I don't want more because I do. But if it didn't, I think I'd be fine with this as a conclusion.
Sure. It's a great conclusion. I'm sure they're going to do at least a third season because, I mean, that feels like a very 80s thing to do is to have a trilogy.
Oh, man, the third one's, though. If the second one manages to be good, the third one in a trilogy, that's a tough one.
Right.
Sometimes it's better than the second one, though.
Really?
But usually if it's better than the second one, it's like the first one sucked, or the first one was good, the second one sucked, and the third one's awesome.
So are we going to get Alien 3?
Or Back to the Future 3.
I'm going to have to revisit Back to the Future 3 because everybody's down on that movie.
I like it. I like all three parts.
I'm fine with it.
I think 3
it feels like one
pretty
movie.
solid. Yeah.
I like it better than I remember.
I do
I've
too.
I've seen it way more than the second one.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, see,
I
I read the novelization of the second movie, so this is a tangent.
All right. Well, let's move on from Stranger Things. So let's talk about Justice League.
Yes, let's.
Melanie watched Wonder Woman last night.
Good.
For the first time. So we've all seen this current DC cinematic universe or extended universe, whatever they're calling it.
I kind of wish I had watched Justice League and then Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Like in hindsight, because you'd just be going from Superman v Batman to Justice League to Wonder Woman. I feel like that's the progression of getting better.
Yeah, I was going to say it would feel like an interesting progression that way.
Or am I off? Melanie can know.
No, Melanie has a look.
I don't know that I would necessarily say it was better or
than Justice League.
Well,
or any of them.
I don't know.
I mean, it references.
I just felt like with Wonder Woman, it was like I told you. I think I told you this too. It was like a female Captain America type story.
Sure, yeah.
And everyone was generic and there wasn't much character development. But it had fun stuff too, so...
Before getting, I guess even, it's my bad for mentioning it, but this is good. This is our, like, what did we expect going into
So,
it?
FYI, spoilers.
Spoilers for all of them.
I didn't spoil anything except...
No, but we're totally gonna. We're gonna wreck
okay.
it.
So, rewatching Wonder Woman last night after having watched Justice League, and I've seen Wonder Woman one other time before. We've seen all the other ones. I was telling Melanie, I was like, of the, 5 movies?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say Man of Steel and Wonder Woman, which I guess technically are like the only 2 like solo character movies, so maybe that's why. But all the other movies feel like a train wreck. And these movies, those 2 movies at least feel like its own thing where they're like, they went into it knowing this is what we want to do. It's a movie about this, it's a story of this character. Let's make a movie. And it feels like a movie. Whereas Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman and even Justice League, behind the scenes they're all a train wreck. And
Sure.
I think it shows a lot in the movie with convoluted plots and weird tonal shifts. And
great trailers.
Okay, I guess. Great trailers.
Yes, that's true. See, I feel like out of all those movies listed, Wonder Woman and Justice League are the best because of how I feel about Man of Steel, and I feel like Justice League course corrected my problems.
I think it's important to know, I enjoyed Justice League.
Right.
I definitely did not leave it feeling the way I left Batman v Superman.
Right.
When I first saw it. Expectations were not high, but I was not disappointed in it.
Right.
So I enjoyed it. I'd say, I think I give it 3 stars on my Letterboxd. So I liked it. And a big part of it is that tone change. Although I do have a couple gripes about the tone, but it was fun. There's some fun sequences. It's amazing that, like, what a difference taking it out of every scene is night and adding some day shots in there makes.
No doubt.
I think it was, I don't know, some YouTube video pointed out there's a scene in the movie that's daytime. It's one of the better scenes. It's where they, again, spoilers, of course, everybody knew this was coming. They wake up Superman, which, what a convoluted thing to get there. They wake up Superman and they have that kind of fight. And there's scenes in the trailers, shots in the trailers from those scenes, except it's all night. So they completely like, you know what, this night scene, it's day now. Of course, all the backgrounds are always digital, so they can do that easy. But it's amazing what a difference it makes, because I remember seeing those shots of like Flash running around and stuff in the trailer and thinking, oh God, it looks like a drab, dreary crap video game. Like, it does not look good. Mm-hmm. And, changing it today, like, it's kind of one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it would make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Makes it less ominous.
Like, I don't even mind the idea of doing dark movies. It's just, you got to have capable people doing them.
Right.
But I'm going to try not to rail on that over and over. So kind of interesting. Did Zack Snyder get the sole directing credit on this? I think he might have.
Really? I know it was a Zack Snyder film.
But it's interesting. The writing credit, you got, I think it was Zack Snyder. And anyway, Joss Whedon got a writing credit. And in order to get a writing credit, you have to have contributed at least a third, or like 33% of the story, which means when they brought him on, you're looking at approximately 33% of the movie being reshot, which is a lot to be reshot. So that's kind of interesting. That gives you an idea of how much was altered afterwards.
Yeah.
I think it works. Like, I like the Joss Whedon touch to it. There's a couple times where I could tell you got a Joss Whedon scene. It's very much a Joss Whedon scene. And then all of a sudden it's like, just the look of it, and like Aquaman was saving that boat, that fisherman. Mm-hmm. Jumping from the scene before that to this Aquaman scene, just the visual style, like, I was like, that one was a little jarring. You can tell you're going from a Joss Whedon movie to a Zack Snyder movie, and those are not two styles that really complement each other.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Aquaman.
Let's.
Jesse had recently done a YouTube video, and he made, what was it you were saying about Aquaman?
I said
Jesse?
It was kind of a superficial treatment. Like, he seemed like a shallow character development kind of version of the character, where we basically, we got the basics of what Aquaman is, which is he's going to be grumpy, but he's ultimately going to do the right thing.
I really shouldn't handle it this way, but it's so hard to think about this movie after the fact and separate it from intentions and behind the scenes stuff, because I know, and you could tell by the casting, like, Aquaman is traditionally considered by like mainstream audiences as like kind of a joke character, like a goofy character. And they even got their jokes in here with the talking to fish and all this. So I knew they were like, Zack Snyder went into it like, we're going to make Aquaman cool. Like, he's going to be awesome. And I kind of couldn't help but think that when he was on screen, because he's super cool. He's too cool. And his attitude is too like, I'm just a cool guy. Like, just kicking it.
He's Wolverine of the sea.
They just made him like too much like, be the like super cool guy that everybody wants to hang out with. And, you know, he'd be cool enough to hang out with people, but he's not going to let anybody know that he really wants to. He's just, you know, whatever. I don't know. There's just...
Unless he sits on the lasso of truth.
That was enjoyable.
That was a great scene. Mm-hmm.
Are they still planning to... who knows what they're planning to do? Are they still planning to do an Aquaman movie? Because...
Yeah, they have to now.
Well, I mean, originally they had Joss Whedon set up to do Batgirl, and I read something last night that said because Justice League, quote-unquote, tanked, that they're not going to have him do it anymore.
Oh,
which is dumb, because I feel like some of the better parts of this movie are probably Joss Whedon.
I guarantee they're Joss Whedon.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of what has ruined some of these movies, but also is part of like why it's hard to get invested in any of it, even when it does go right. And I know we're supposed to be talking about the movie, but the movie studio has no confidence in it at all. And the fact that, like, you know, Suicide Squad had so many changes and there was so much whatever.
All of them have,
there's
they?
A little bit more to it on this one because of what's happening in Hollywood, like widespread, this whole sexual harassment thing, and some of the things that have come out against Joss Whedon have played into whether or not they want him to do a Batgirl movie.
Joss Whedon too?
Right.
I knew there was some business with his ex-wife.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe this is just their excuse. Like they already planned on dumping him, but now that Justice League tanks, it's like, okay, yeah, well, now we have every right to.
They can't be trusted to put these movies in the hands of people that will create something I'm interested in seeing. Like, the fact that they pretty much handed it all over to Zack Snyder right off the bat, it's like, not a wise decision. Then he's kind of moved out for personal reasons, but also I think probably some pressure from the studio. Like, even if he hadn't had personal issues come up, I think they'd have been segueing him out anyway with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little bit like the Sony thing. The Sony Spider-Man stuff where they started as Spider-Man. They're like planning all these movies and all this, and like, but you couldn't count on any of that happening, and now like none of it's happening,
right?
Because they're getting ahead of themselves, and then they're not concerned about the quality of the thing they're putting out, you know. And it seems like at least with the Marvel movies, they're kind of making an attempt. Ant-Man was a little worrisome because they had a super interesting filmmaker attached and then, you know, removed because of creative differences and stuff. But as far as I could tell, that hasn't happened all that much. And they still put out stuff where it seems like somebody cares about making this an entertaining movie. What about that CGI?
Oh, man. Can we talk about that? Because, boy, oh, boy.
What is going on?
Holy moly.
Like, honestly, I want to know, like, what happened? What's wrong? Like, why? Are they just skimping on the CGI budget? Or are they, like, committed to some... Is it because of reshoots? Like, I don't understand, like, why the CGI is so bad. And it's not necessarily the look, although mustache, it's a little bit the look.
I was to say that opening scene, I don't understand why they shot it the way they did. Like, it's a cell phone video. Why couldn't you obscure that? But it's so bad. Like, it's supposed to be bad because it's a cell phone video. So why can't we cover that up with, like, just back off from the character and make it a little blurry? I don't know. But we can see ridiculous teeth and bizarre lip.
Melanie asked in the theaters, like, it starts and there's that scene and she leans over and she said, did they recast Superman? And I said, no, they CGI'd his face because he had a mustache.
Right.
She's like, what? But
exactly.
But she was 100% right. He didn't look like himself.
No.
Like, it looked weird. And apparently the mustache thing, I found out since, because I didn't know going into it. I didn't look into it. I tried not to track down too much information. But since I found out, it's because it's from the reshoots. He was shooting another movie where he had to have a mustache.
So he couldn't shave it off, or
he would have messed up the other movie, yeah.
Yes, messed up.
And my guess is, like, at this point, it's like that other movie had to be like, okay, yeah, you can use him. Like, he's shooting a movie with us, but you can use him. And they're like, can he shave off his mustache? They're like, no, we're being nice enough. Whatever. I don't know how it works.
It was Mission Impossible 2 or 6. 6, I mean.
Mission Impossible 6. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can blame Tom Cruise for Superman.
Yeah, it did look weird. It's a weird decision.
Honestly, like, I can forgive that. What I can't forgive is total spoilers. They save the day and it's Fern Gully? What the hell?
Yeah, that was weird. I'd be like,
what? The weird purple
the weird plant life?
Yeah, like okay, we beat Steppenwolf and now there's a purple plant. And that means we save the day somehow?
Well, and everybody's like, oh, look at it. Oh, and I'm like,
it's a pretty plant. That's creepy.
That's weird alien vegetation that could be toxic. You don't know what that is.
Kill that thing with your heat vision, dude. Whatever.
Yeah.
You just beat Flash in a race, whatever.
Purple stalagmites, or whatever.
I could be...
Or tights, whichever one it is.
I could be wrong, but I wonder if that's a Joss Whedon thing or if that was actually the Zack Snyder thing. If that's him, like...
I mean, it doesn't...
Like, well, they want it brighter, but this is cool.
It doesn't matter because it's a bad CGI. Like, make something that looks real, I guess.
I think the villain is entirely CGI.
Yeah. Well, and Green Lantern doesn't look real either, so let's just keep that going, I guess.
Why is he CGI?
I don't know.
Like, I don't always get, like, Wonder Woman did this sometimes too, where they do scenes where it's like, you could shoot that.
Right.
Why is it CGI? The motion doesn't look right.
Mm-hmm.
But the motion in particular, like, I was talking to Dustin of Pro Wrestling Iowa online because he was not happy with this movie.
Right.
And we were kind of complaining about the CGI, and he's like, they could have at least springed for some motion capture. It looks like an amateur went through and, like, keyframe animated it. It didn't look natural at all. The movement was horrible.
Right.
Like, if that's motion capture, you need to fire somebody. Like, somebody messed up and lost the motion capture data and was like, I'll just do it by hand tonight.
They've got like an action figure that they put little dots on.
Yeah. But also beyond that, like, why was he all CGI all the time? Like, why was that?
Yeah, I don't know.
He was humanoid enough. They could have just thrown some makeup on him and called it good. Like, you didn't need to CGI that. It's something that could have been done for cheap.
Yeah.
I know makeup isn't that cheap, but, like, it's not CGI an entire character for all of its scenes expensive.
Mm-hmm.
They made Jim Carrey look like Andy Kaufman, so I mean, it can be done.
Exactly. That was the biggest thing. I was like, why is that character CGI? He looks kind of human.
Well, when was it Tim Curry? When Tim Curry from Legend looks more realistic than Steppenwolf in 2017.
Yeah.
There's a problem.
Oh, that's some incredible makeup, though.
Oh, for real. But, I mean, like, how old is that movie?
Tim Curry in Legend.
How old is that?
Plays like the devil or something?
Oh, yeah. No kidding.
That's
amazing.
Way more realistic than what we got for Steppenwolf.
And I guarantee you cheaper.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
And, man, that thing must have been heavy. But anyway.
Oh, yeah. That headpiece that he would have had.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Talk about neck strain.
Right.
But it was real, and you could tell it was heavy. Those horns looked like they had weight. It didn't look like, God, what is everybody saying? It looked like a 90s PlayStation game or something.
Yeah. Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie in the 90s looks better. Ivan Ooze, ladies and gentlemen.
More Power Rangers.
Yeah, let's do that more. More.
Was that might have been the pre-show? I don't recall.
Oh, we talked about that because didn't we talk about Ezra Miller's? No, that was another podcast I listened to. Ezra Miller's costume. I think it was actually a Superior Comic Show where they were talking about his costume looks more like Power Rangers than the Flash, and I'm inclined to agree. But whatever.
Okay, so what did you guys think of the Flash? His character.
Overall, I liked him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was made to be likable. He's the likable one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with the people who say he's more like Wally than Barry. I will agree with that. But I also think this guy is not even Wally. This guy is just a new Flash totally. And if I can wrap my head around that, it's fine.
Yeah, I didn't mind him as a character.
He's awkward. That's just it. He's just awkward. And that's fine. It's funny.
It felt like 3 how many of the Justice League characters are there? Is there 5? 6, I guess, with Superman?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep, 6 with Superman.
Felt like 3 of them were comic relief.
Yeah,
Half
fair
of
enough.
them were
Fair
comic
enough.
relief.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind it. Again, we already talked about Aquaman. I wasn't super keen on Aquaman just because it felt like they were trying too hard to make him cool.
No, they didn't have to try it all. They just got Jason Momoa to
Well,
play
Jason
him.
Momoa is cool, right? Yeah,
He is cool.
No.
Yeah. My real problem with Aquaman was how they made Mira get stomped. Like Mira got stomped,
yeah.
and then suddenly Aquaman's okay, and he's the half Atlantean. Nah.
Nah.
Oh hell nah.
I'll just have to agree with you because I have not read Aquaman. I don't know.
Mira's legit, but we got like almost no screen time from her. So I mean, I get why they need to make him more important, and they gave her a chance to be awesome, but it just didn't pan out.
If they do an Aquaman movie, get somebody else to do the CGI for that movie.
Yeah.
And I know the movement of them underwater is not going to look natural, but it looked real weird. That little fight he had underwater, there was some stuff that just did not work. It's like, oof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Batman, I'm conflicted about Batman. Like, I liked some of his gags, some of his one-liners and interactions, but I feel like a little bit they pushed him too far the other direction from where he was. Like, Batman shouldn't always be the comic relief.
Right.
Yeah.
Or most of the time.
Yeah, he's supposed to be brooding.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Like, he's the character it's okay to have brooding. Cyborg was the brooding character, though.
Yeah, and
And not likable, really.
and I didn't understand some of his motivations or whatever.
I'll say this, like, the movie had a lot to deal with. Like, it's still introducing the majority of its characters.
Yeah, maybe they should have done some more one-offs for the players before they jumped into the Justice League.
I don't know, considering how Marvel dealt with it. At a certain point, it was like, can we just have Avengers now? Because the Thor movie felt like, okay, we're just biding our time till Avengers. And then Thor 2.
The first Thor.
Yeah.
First Thor, I hated it. That is not good.
Yeah. Well, they all feel like movies that are just biding their time for the Avengers movie. And
that's a good point. You're right.
I feel like a Aquaman movie thrown in here before we got Justice League, I don't know that it would have done well.
I think an Aquaman movie would be hard to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't do Aquaman necessarily.
But Flash, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
And Cyborg could be done, but I'm not interested in a Cyborg movie because this character seems boring to me. Like, this version of Cyborg is not particularly interesting to me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell there was a lot of material to work with, and they had to cut it down. And that was like one of their stipulations. Like, it's got to be under 2 hours, and it's an hour and 59 minutes long. You could tell it's a collection of scenes. Like, they're like, we just take the axe to everything we can. It doesn't need to be there. Get it out, get it out, get it out. But, I think they handled it okay. You could tell there's a lot there that there's too much there, but
You're right.
Did all right.
And see, that's, again, what I'm saying. Do that to a one-character movie, not the mashup of them all. That should be a little bit longer.
The WB's insistence on not doing it the Marvel way really put them off in a bad way, because that's how you end up with Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, big convoluted story.
Right.
Where they're forcing this stuff in there, and it's like, that doesn't need to be there. Like, why is that there?
They basically combined both of the movies that Zack Snyder was going to do into this movie. Because it was going to be Justice League 1 and 2. And now it just was like, okay, here's Justice League. Boom.
Yeah, and you can tell. And also, when I think about some of the setup scenes from Batman v Superman for this movie, they don't make sense anymore. Like, you can kind of tell. Like, what was the Flash deal?
Yeah, I kept wondering about that. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop where the Flash would go back in time and try to warn Bruce, but it didn't happen. I kept wondering if that was going to play in, or if we were going to see people with Kryptonian seal on their left shoulder.
Yeah, my guess is a big part of what got cut early on, probably before they even started filming, was we were basically going to get the scenario that played out kind of like Batman's Desert Dream.
Right.
Where you got bad, Superman came back, he's bad, Parademon's running around. Like, I imagine
like Darkseid corrupted him kind of thing, because he wasn't all there.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice there was one mention of Darkseid in this?
Oh,
like Steppenwolf mentioned Darkseid once. It felt like a voiceover. It felt like
A redub.
Yeah, it felt like a redub, which is weird because he was a CGI character, so the first line would have had to been a redub. But,
Right.
But only once, which I was kind of surprised. I was expecting to hear some Die for Darkseid, which is awesome.
What I've been seeing like on YouTube videos and stuff is that that originally Darkseid was supposed to be the big bad. Like you were going to see him actually kill Steppenwolf. But that's all part of this whole 2-part thing that they had to like consolidate. Like they were going to have him die before the end of the first movie, and then second movie was going to be all Darkseid.
Why didn't they do it?
No,
They get scared.
Lack of confidence in Zack Snyder's vision, which I don't blame, but
not once the other guy took over.
yeah.
But let one of them do the whole thing.
Right. Well, now they won't let him do anything. Now you can't even do Batgirl. Can't do it.
When are they doing Batgirl?
Oh, I don't know. Now it may not even happen.
Probably won't. Well, just like there have been, 2 different Joker movies in the talks. One of them with Jared Leto Joker, and the other an out-of-universe,
With
like not in continuity
Scorsese
Joker movie.
with potentially Leo DiCaprio.
Yeah. What is that?
Crazy.
What is going on?
That's crazy. I don't even know what world
No,
I'm living in, and I'm growing up in it.
I would take a Scorsese Joker movie.
Oh, heck
Leo
yeah.
as the Joker seems weird, but I would take that just to see what the heck it is.
Right.
Actually, I'd take that over Jared Leto Joker movie any day. But like, why? Like, I don't understand the motivation behind any of these decisions.
No.
And that's the Justice League. We talked a lot about not Justice League, but
welcome to the DC Extended Universe.
some of the action stuff was good. Like, it didn't get as mind-numbing. There's some forgettable stuff. I like Wonder Woman's little action sequence introduction in this movie.
Did she hold up? I feel like overall, like she's untouchable. I feel like everything she does is okay so far.
Oh,
so
yeah,
far.
I mean, I thought she was okay.
She's got a weird face, and sometimes it looks normal.
that could be CGI.
understand.
That could be CGI. CBG.
Yeah. CBGBI.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. And it's probably all
generated babe face.
She's not real either, so, you know.
She's CGI.
Yep.
At least her movements are somewhat natural, kind of.
Yeah. All she has to do is like bang her wrists together and then game over.
Is that a god power?
I think that's a movie power. I could be wrong about that.
Watching Wonder Woman last night, like her power set, and thinking about her in Justice League, her power set is not defined at all.
No, I don't think it ever has been.
You know? Okay.
No, because
yeah,
I sometimes I feel like she could just take a bullet, and the rest of the time it's just like, no, that's why she's so good at like deflecting bullets with her bracers.
But it didn't seem like anybody else on the Mascara was super strong like her.
Well, they kind of explain that in that she is part god or whatever.
Yeah, I know, but
yeah, no, I know.
Well, that was
no,
my
I agree,
thinking.
and that's not the way it is in the comics. I don't think, but they've rewritten her a couple times in the comics.
I read some of it. I was telling him it kind of based on the comic. Anyway, I guessed who the bad guy was.
Oh, in Wonder Woman? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was kind of obvious-ish, but
you guessed it like right away.
yeah.
The first scene where he showed up, where it's like, wait,
Yeah.
it's really the first scene he shows up somewhere where he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're just an intelligence
really?
guy.
Yeah.
You should be there. She guessed it when he showed up in the bar.
I kind of wondered because it's like, who else could it be? This other guy's way too obvious. Yeah.
And I'm like, and snorting some weird gas pill wouldn't have that kind of reaction on it.
No, why would a god need that? Yeah.
Super gas cocaine, whatever it was.
Yeah.
He loves the cocaine, yeah.
Which was a weird decision, but that's just so they can have a superhero fight at the end and continue to make the audience ideally question whether he was the guy or not.
Yeah. Well,
And I'm like,
have we talked about this? Like my main problem with that movie is basically the third act, which means the first act was sloppy.
No, I don't think we have to. Well, no, we might have talked about it briefly, but we never, since Melanie hadn't seen it and it took me a long time to see it, I don't think we really talked about it at any length.
That's my problem with it, is like all we know about, well, I'll just spoil it. I mean, for people who don't know, so spoilers. Ares, the only thing we know about Ares is that he's a bad guy. Same thing as Steppenwolf. The only thing we know about either of these bad guys is that they're bad and we should worry about them. And that's why the third act falls completely apart.
and because they make the bad guy look like a big weird bad guy instead of just letting him be.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Total cartoons. Both movies. Yep.
We were talking. I think the final fight in Wonder Woman, and that's I think the fight with the not Ares guy is kind of more interesting than the final fight, even though it's shorter.
Sure.
Like it's got some cool shots. Like it's ridiculous, but the bit where she's like they're above that tower shack and she's like whipping him up with the whip and stuff. I was like, that's a cool image. But I think it would have been way cooler if the dude hadn't have put like a metal knight suit on. If the whole final act was this big super powered fight against a mustached little skinny old guy.
Right.
He's not that old, but a mustached little skinny old British guy in a suit, in like a brown suit. I've been like, that would have been amazing. Like it would have been such a cool look and kind of unique.
Right.
But nope, they had to throw him in armor.
Nope, he's got to look like some Greek god. So
yeah, and I guess I get that, but man, somebody should at some point would have been like, you know what? This would be way cooler if you just look like a normal dude.
I am Ares, and it doesn't matter what I look like because here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm the god of war.
And like,
boom.
Yeah, and it shouldn't matter what body they're in; their powers should still remain the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They could be a freaking peacock or whatever, and still be able to.
The peacock of war. I feel like we have an episode title now.
Peacock of War. Like, I feel bad for our Justice League discussion because there wasn't really a lot about it. But honestly, I kind of feel like I could go on more about Wonder Woman than Justice League. And I think that's part of the problem. The story of Justice League was like just nothing. Like, there's not.
Yeah.
Like, they're getting together. They got together. That's the purpose of the movie.
Well, they did have to go get cool, like, Hellraiser looking cubes. That's always fun. Anytime there's a Hellraiser.
The mother boxes are weird, yeah.
Oh, man. We didn't even get into that.
It's a strange approach to mother boxes.
Like, they didn't even try. You know, they were just like, okay, they are power. Okay, they're power.
Yeah.
That's what we got as an explanation.
I appreciated that boom tubes were at least like
they look
tubes.
Yeah, they look like a tube.
And
that's true.
And they boomed.
They did. That was fan service right there.
There's so nothing to the villain that it's the threat. It's like it doesn't matter.
They should have. They should have took a cue from like Star Wars or something and had just a dark side face somewhere and make it feel like there's a real threat looming. Because Steppenwolf, we got so little of him leading up to what he was even doing. Like all we got was like a backstory from Wonder Woman that said, okay, he's going to try and terraform us. Where have we heard that before? Oh God, is it another dubstep machine?
Right. I was a little surprised by that. I was like, they're
back to the well.
Already done this.
It was actually kind of sadder though, because it was basically just some alien guy out of nowhere that nobody knows really much of anything about. That's like, I'm going to destroy you. Be afraid of me because I say so.
Yeah, at least Zod had like a motivation.
And we saw backstory and like actual backstory.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why I say like Wonder Woman and Man of Steel, like they're the two movies that feel like a movie.
I can get on board with that, whether I like it or not.
Wonder Woman's villain is, whatever, he's the god of war, so enough said, he's evil. So like that's pretty lame. But yeah, there's kind of a character arc. There's just more to it than just a collection of stuff. Here's a bad guy, go fight.
Right.
They should have used like the old guy from the comic book.
Oh, for Ares?
Yeah. Well, they did kind of use an old guy. He's like a little, like really old guy in a suit, and the cuffs were like soaked up in blood, and he was like, every time you saw him, he was in some war zone, but he was just like calmly walking around in his suit, like drinking a drink, just chatting, It's pretty awesome.
See? And he was just in a suit, just a normal looking dude, kind of.
Except it was soaked in blood.
At
the cuffs.
Cool.
Yeah.
Superman. What was the point of killing him?
There was none.
No, there was none. They're like, how they brought him back was so like half.
They're making the like Lex Luthor's, or not Lex Luthor's, whoever's like soup mixture of the alien or Superman's alien peoples. Their soup mixture has become a Lazarus pit for the superheroes.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. But there's so many assumptions. Like, how do they know that this is? How do they know Flash needs to touch it right as it touches the liquid? What does it matter?
Put it
in the liquid.
Yeah, right.
And it's such a stretch.
And
like,
did he?
Such a stretch.
I get because I was nerding out on that. I was like, did he actually do it? Was that? It feels like he was a little late.
It did, because it hit the water before.
Yeah.
But if that's how they were going to bring him back, like, why even kill him off? Because it seems so sloppy and, like, harebrained. That's the expression I was looking for. Like, it's just weird. And I'm glad they had characters say stuff about, like, how it was weird. But I'm like, are we really watching the Justice League play Frankenstein with Superman's corpse?
Yeah, for real.
Like, they dig up his corpse and pull it out of the casket, and it's so weird. I'm like, what is this movie we're watching? What is this?
Yeah, and so like in light of that, like more people should have really been railing against that. Cyborg in particular should have been like, no.
I can't even quite picture reading that in a comic book and having them all stand around. Like, I could see one character like going a little crazy and digging up his corpse, but I can't see the Justice League being like, yep, let's do it. Let's go dig it up.
Let's go. And the only voice of reason, again, is Wonder Woman. Like, she's the only one that feels like she knows what she's doing.
So strange. Mm-hmm. All right. That's the main things I had to say. I enjoyed it. I have a lot of complaints, but...
I am surprisingly more negative in this episode than I ever intended to be, because overall, I enjoyed this movie a lot.
Okay, well, before we totally leave it, what do you think, Jesse? What do you think it really nails? Like, what do you think it did well?
Characters and course-correcting Superman.
Oh, yeah, course-correcting Superman. I mean, he comes back and he's kind of bad for a little bit, although this is the one time where I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense that he'd be, like, mad and moody. Yeah. But once he gets over that, yeah, he's Superman again.
And he does the whole, like, I'm going to race with the Flash. I mean, like, the little boy in me was just, like, cheering.
The one thing I liked, it was purely a gag, just there to laugh. In fact, this is so Joss Whedon, that really kind of out of place, like those cutaways to that family in that little town throughout the movie. Like, those are only there to set up that one gag. A lot like the farm... A lot like Hawkeye's, like the farmhouse stuff in Avengers, where the only reason all that's there is to set up the like misdirect of who's going to get shot. And it's to set up that gag where Flash pushes the car and then looks over and sees Superman, and it looks almost like a miniature. Like you see Superman flying an entire building across the sky. It's like, oh, okay. But I thought that was good. Yeah. Actually, I liked that a lot.
Yeah, now that was genuine laughter because I really enjoyed that scene.
So like I could have done with more of that.
Yeah.
I think if they'd just, I think the main issues with it is like a whole bunch of like, well, here's what we got, here's what we started with, how do we fix it? As opposed to, well, let's just do something good.
So 33% of it I really loved. what was that? Was it a third?
Yep.
The writing credit? I don't know. It was probably more than that. I don't know. It was fun. Okay, so Christopher R. Mim, which we are a supporter of many of his movies, he put together basically a Facebook post that is one of the fun. I really like his take on it, and his take was Wonder Woman was a better movie, but Justice League was a funner movie, and I thought that was kind of apropos because it's like, okay, yeah, Wonder Woman is the better movie, but there was some really fun stuff in Justice League. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that totally makes sense.
Overall, I would recommend it. I mean, I think it is a step in the right direction. And in light of all of the crazy uphill battle stuff, it's amazing that I have anything positive to say about this movie. And you would think the same way about Suicide Squad, but no.
Yeah.
This actually worked. I'm still going to say no to Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that's I knew, like, thinking about doing this episode, I knew I was going to come in with a lot of negative stuff to say. But I would recommend, I'd give a soft recommend. I'd recommend watching it.
Yeah. I did not recommend Superman v. Batman, but I have been like, take a look, because if I'm willing to give it a chance, then there's some people that actually are going to like it.
I think this would definitely be more appealing to a mainstream audience, which is generally not a good thing. But given what they've been giving us when they've, I don't know, handed a lot of control over to an auteur like Zack Snyder, like in this case, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Justice League is the movie where it can be fun.
What does Melanie think?
I agree.
Was this fun?
It was kind of fun. I mean, there's fun elements to it, but I don't know. They could have done better too.
I would agree with that.
Just like everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still want more,
I think the thing that might be the thing that bugs me most is like, yeah, it's not bad. It should have been great. It could have been.
Yeah.
Should have been way better.
It's that potential thing.
It deserves to be better, but this is what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, will Momoa be better in The Crow?
I don't know, man.
Stay tuned.
It's a weird choice, don't you think?
Same
beefy, man.
Aqua time, same Aqua channel.
He's so
Did I say
beefy.
Aqua or awkward?
Maybe a little bit.
I think you said, well, awkward's more appropriate.
Listeners decide.
This is Randy from In the Future, and I have a very important message for you. The Grawlix podcast is missing something, and that something is you. Join our letters page segment. If you have thoughts on what we're reading, what we just read, what we're about to read, what you're reading, or you just want to say hi, send us an email to letters@grawlixpodcast.com, and we'll read and discuss your letter on the show. What the devil? What are you doing here? Hey folks, this is Randy from Further in the Future. And what my former self neglected to mention is we also have a Google Voice line. You can call it, leave a message, and we will play that message on the next episode of the Grawlix podcast. Try to keep it under 2 minutes. Whatever you want to talk to us about it. Ideally, something related to the show. Dial 559-426-6427, or if this helps you remember, 559-4-COMICS. Type that into your phone, you'll be connected to our voicemail, leave us a message, and we will play it on the show. This is getting ridiculous. Get out of my way. Get out of my way. This is Randy from Even Further in the Future. And what these two knuckleheads neglected to mention is if you'd rather send us an MP3 recording of yourself to play on the show, you can hit that email. Again, that's letters@grawlixpodcast.com with an MP3 attachment, and we'll play it during the show. Just try to keep your language clean and keep it under 2 minutes. Also, hey Bonehead, did you just shoot our younger self? Yeah, it's cool. Shouldn't we be doing the Marty McFly disappear from the picture act right now? No, it's fine. He was a time remnant. Oh, that doesn't make sense. A time remnant doesn't make sense. At some point, older Randy has to travel back to talk to younger Randy. But if older Randy kills younger Randy never gets to become older Randy and travel back in time. It's time travel, not cloning. We're not cloning and sending ourselves back. We're just time traveling. You don't know that. We could be operating on primer rules. In that case, there can only be one. When we had initially tweeted about our Halloween special, which came out at the end of October, of course.
Right before we actually posted an episode, but we recorded before that, so it's wibbly wobbly.
We should have mentioned it before now, but it happens. So we posted it, and we got some nice, but also like interesting and informational feedback from, sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Christine Velada, who is Len Wein's widow. And initially, what did she say here?
She basically praised you because you did a good job of like getting the rhythm.
Well, so she retweeted it. She obviously listened to it. And I think what inspired a lot of it was she also, and this is the part that's somewhat embarrassing to me, she also listened to our conversation, like our 30-minute conversation after, or maybe just 20 minutes. And she had a lot of input about the things we were saying about the story.
To be fair, we weren't like necessarily talking about comics of the time so much as we were talking about comics of the now time.
Yeah. God, I'm trying to find that first tweet because it was awesome. My first Christmas present to Len Wein was a gold bracelet. I wonder where it is. If tears could come, they would. And she says, story meant to be read aloud. She said that when she retweeted our thing, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Both on her account and on the Len Wein account.
She had a lot of things to say about it. It was pretty cool because we were talking about, she said the story was meant to be read aloud. There's a rhythm in every line of caption. Len Wein was famous for this. Also, it is a period piece. The period is Gothic, late 19th century, but intentionally vague. Which makes sense. It because it did feel that way. It had that look, but it could also still kind of been modern. Like DC immediately wanted to go to series, but Len Wein and Bernie said no. Then one day, Len Wein realized if they brought it to present day, they could take it in a different direction that would work. She commented on our commentary that the choice of tone was to reflect the gothic nature of the piece, and it's not old school writing. And it's like Jesse said, what we were meaning is, well, we'll touch on it again. We touched on it last month. We'll touch it on again later this month with Constantine from that period, where it's just, it's a lot more narration and captioning and prose in it than modern comics, which isn't a bad thing.
No, it's appropriate.
But yeah, she had some nice things to say, and also she was not super keen on some of our commentary on it, but that's okay.
I feel like that was just misunderstanding, not so much like we just didn't. I don't know if we were super clear on what we were saying, kind of thing.
We talk out of our butts a little bit
all the time.
So I mean, like if you're a new listener because you read her tweets or you caught our Halloween special, thank you ffirst of all for listening, and second of all, like we meant absolutely the utmost respect. Like we don't mean we're not bad mouthing his style of writing in any way, shape, or form. We wouldn't have done a fan audio drama based on his work if we weren't total fans. So
yeah, at first it was super exciting that she was tweeting, and then on the day I started to get nervous. I was like, oh no, what did we say? Like we made fools of ourselves, and like Lynn had only just passed 2 months prior, and I was like, oh, and she's listening to it, and I hope we didn't say anything stupid and all this. But then reading back through it later, through the tweets, like, no, it's awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That she took the time to listen, and everything she said was awesome.
Yes, thank you for even paying attention.
Yeah. So cool.
We'll have to do another one, huh?
I liked it a lot. Patrick, okay, so I was talking to Patrick of Make Dad Read Comics in messages one day, and I can't remember exactly what he said about it. He enjoyed it, but he had said something about a Christmas special, and I was like, oh man. I was like, dude, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me, because like, I do not have time for it. But I'd do one for every holiday. Like,
I will ain't it up.
I was like, it was awesome. I was like, the only thing is I don't want to keep doing existing stories, because that gets iffy. Like in the past, I don't know if it was on, I think it might have been on a pre-show, I've criticized fan productions and fan fiction of things. But more than anything, it's like I don't want to do a bunch and then have DC or somebody to start like eyeballing us, be like, what are you guys doing? Like,
well, even
with our properties,
even with this one, you were like, oh, she's a content attorney. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Hope we did not offend. Obviously we did not, or she would have been like, cease and desist.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
I love that she listened to it. But yeah, I liked putting it together. I thought it was fun. I thought our acting was fun, and I think if we put together a story that better suits our acting abilities, I think that could be really fun.
I have no acting ability, baby.
Well, we'll write it so that that is
that's what they do. They write the part to the actor now.
Yeah.
When I was in the second grade play, I was Elliot, the smoking dragon, and all he come on at the end, cry, and be like, "I'm sorry, I won't smoke anymore." That was it.
Really?
That was a lie.
He started smoking immediately because that's what he does. That's his name, the Smoking Dragon.
Best costume I ever wore, by the way.
I think it would be hard for me to not push a villain on Jesse's character on Jesse every time.
I would have a hard time not accepting a villain from now on.
Mainly
because of the Ainley comment that we got. We're like, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the last episode.
Yeah, exactly. That was in the letters page segment specifically.
Yes.
All right, come on, we're in.
This is awesome. We're in the Grawlix Studios.
Look, it's a plate of Mel's Hot Biscuits. I've heard about those.
Oh my God, check it out. Jesse and Randy's beard oil. I didn't know you can buy that in buckets. Well, that Sam Club's membership is really paying off.
Okay, let's get in their computer and drop this promo.
Okay, let's do it.
We're the Roman Podcast, and in the future, we're sneaking a promo on the Grawlix Show.
Okay, seriously.
Go. Here we go.
I'm Roman LeBeau.
And I'm Rob Gast.
And we're from the Roman Podcast. We're just two Canadian guys getting together once a week to put our own spin on weird stories and trending news.
That's right. You can get our show every Wednesday night on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, the Laughable app, and of course, here on the EMC Podcast Network.
Okay, I think we got it. Put that on their show. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Hang on. While I'm in their computer, I'm just going to update their comic book pull list for the next few months.
What are you adding?
Captain Canuck, of course.
Nice.
This is Melanie. No protectors here. No lanterns. No Grawlix. This world will fall like all the others.
This is Jesse. I miss the day when one's greatest concern is Grawlix wind-up penguins.
This has been Randy. I eat a lot of Grawlix to fill this black hole. I'm a Grawlix hole. Thank you for listening to the Grawlix Podcast. The Grawlix Podcast is a production of the Electronic Media Collective and Vorpal Arrow Studios. For more Grawlix Podcasts, check out GrawlixPodcast.com. Also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, YouTube, electronicmediacollective.com, facebook.com/Grawlix Podcast, twitter.com/Grawlix Podcast, all the .com/all the Grawlix Podcasts. Also, something I didn't think about till watching Wonder Woman last night. So when we went and seen Justice League, we sat through the after credit scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Without even thinking about it. We're like, well, there's probably going to be some. So we sat through and waited for both of them. Mm-hmm. And then watching Wonder Woman last night,